Hello and welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer. Just responding a little bit to the recent crazy train for Warhammer Khaine, and providing some opinion, and also providing what I believe is going to happen next. How is this going to affect Ninth? How is this going to affect the future of Warhammer? And what maybe the next End Times book might be. Now, usually what I do is when I gather up a lot of the information that I see, I do a lot of reading, I have some feeds and alerts, and I aggregate this stuff, and then I post what what I think is happening, and try to rebroadcast some of the opinions and some of the predictions that I see. Usually from some of the same sources that everybody else has access to. I just maybe refresh the page a little bit more often than most, but I don't have any secret pipeline into GW or anything, and I think some of the people that are posting this stuff, either anonymously or not, somebody out there probably does, because there's a couple sources that have been pretty, I wouldn't say spot on, but pretty accurate, even though some of their predictions have been generalizations. But let's talk first about Khaine magic. I've had a couple of different minds about Khaine magic, and I've been a big proponent for End Times in general. I love the End Times storyline. I like where GW has been going with the concept of following plot lines, following storylines, following a evolution in the fluff, following that with rules, with source material, and really supporting fantasy in a way that they haven't in apparently a long time. Now, I got back into the hobby probably about, I don't know, close to a year and a half ago, after a good hiatus, probably about over 15 years hiatus, and I played very heavily when I was playing. I had just about every army, 4,000 or 5,000 points minimum of every army, mostly fully painted. I wasn't a very good painter, and as many of you know, who probably have subscribed to my channel for a while, I took a hiatus after I got married, had a kid, I still have him, and got a house, grew up a little, and now that my son is a little older, and we don't have to worry about midnight feedings and potty training and other stuff, there's a little bit more time, and everybody's getting a little more sleep. My son is 8, so not that the responsibilities end, but now my son is actually interested in this. He's actually interested in the idea of Warhammer, so he's just at that age where he could start learning about it, and he's learned about a number of different other games too, which is just feeding my my nerdism. Anyway, the End Times have been very refreshing, and certainly I've jumped in with both feet. One of the armies I'd started was Vampire Counts, and when Undead came about with the Undead Legions, it harkened back to when I played Undead back in the days when Nagash was clowny face, and Harkin was a riding a four skeleton horse chariot, and some of the rules were probably more batshit crazy than 8th. There's some things I don't like about 8th, but 8th is widely accepted as being very balanced and very good, and I certainly got to know a lot of the rules, and really enjoyed, even when I could then, as you probably have followed, get Nagash again and be able to build up this this centerpiece model, and when reading all the End Times fluff, except for maybe the Glocken book, that one was a little bit wanting. But enjoying the fluff, enjoying the storyline, and being able to play as many of these campaigns as possible. It really is. It was a good time for me personally to get back into the hobby, and I think it's inspired a lot of other people. There's been a lot of controversies about End Times, but for the most part, I think the good that comes of it is that there's at least a focal point, an attention towards fantasy somewhere in GW. They obviously realizing they're making money off of this, and that can only be a good thing. There can also be actually a bad thing, and that is that they're notorious for poor proofreading, poor quality assurance, poor testing, and not really caring as much about the hobbyists' desires and interests and feedback as just whatever they want to throw out there, and under the guise of, hey, you do whatever you want, and really not caring about the organized community, the competitive community. Now, as many of you probably know if you've been following me, I kind of bridge that gap between the casual gamer and the competitive player. I do partake in some local tournaments. I felt that I needed to really learn the rules and then get some more stuff with paint on it, and I still have to obviously get more stuff with paint on it to really feel comfortable with my stuff on the table, especially in any GT. I'm not going to be able to enter any GT until I have a full army. But as far as knowing the rules and being able to actually provide a competitive game and hopefully a fun game, but that's something that I've been partaking in for, it took me about a good 6 to 8 months before I decided that I wanted to even try out a tournament. And I've done pretty well. I've done pretty well. I feel like I win more than I lose. But that the competitive scene as well as the casual one. I love campaigns. I've gotten into a couple of campaigns, and those have actually been the most enjoyable parts of the game since I've returned. Apart from just converting and learning how to paint, and then getting involved with the community. And so the community. When I say the community, I mean the community of YouTubers specifically, but also another group of people to game with, because I've done X-Wing, I've done HeroClix, I've role played, certainly spent small amounts of time playing games, but really jumped in full swing when I got back into Warhammer. So with Khaine, the rules for Magic, that's changed a lot of things. I can get over the past that they're super heavyweight characters. People see me with Nagash on the table for a recent tournament and a couple of casual games. But that's not been my staple, and I certainly love the Undead Legions. I absolutely adore the idea of bringing in more options into this army that I really like, and it kind of, again, it brings me back to the kind of army it was, or at least the feel of that army back in the day. There were Skullapults in Undead, there were Archers with Undead, there were Wights with Undead, and there were also Chariots. So the army certainly wasn't what an Undead Legions is now, but the game is completely different. So again, I've been a big proponent of it, thinking that this might be a testing platform for where 9th might go, and feeling that some of these things, some of these rules, and some of the characters, even just the whole setting, might be completely different for 9th. Whether it's a complete reset and a relaunch of a whole different world, or just a new beginning after the smoke clears from whatever End Times results in. There's just been this general feeling that End Times is a bridge. Some people feel it's just another Storm of Magic. I think it's much more. Certainly, from all the rumors I've heard, from all the people that seem to be on really good at this stuff and on point, and certainly from even GW's comments and from the stuff that they put in the book. Now, there might be similar language in other source materials, but they've really kind of raised the bar on how they've said that this is going to change Warhammer. And they come out and use those words. Warhammer will never be the same. So when people have complained and gotten up in arms about some of the real radical changes prior to Warhammer Khaine, End Times Khaine, it's been because they see things on the horizon that they don't like. But I think even those things could be dealt with insofar as, all right, just don't play the special characters, just be a respectful player and ask before you put something on the table and see what kind of game you're playing. And even in tournaments and the organized, they've done it for years and they'll do it going forward. They comp things out. Certain characters are not allowed. Certain rule sets are adjusted. They include new rule sets and things about terrain and whatnot. It depends on where you go. It's a completely different game. I don't like comp personally. I've said that. I'm not shy about saying it. I may not be quite as strong as Lord Tremendous is about just feeling no comp, zero comp. I do believe that there is certain situations where there's appropriate comp because there is an imbalance, and for fair play in an organized sense, you need some. I just like less than I think most people, especially most organized people. I'm not a big fan of ETC or Swedish comp, but there's certain things I do appreciate. I can live with things like 12 max dice. I can live with things like certainly no folding fortress, which can things that break the game. Where like if you're exceeding 12 dice, there's an element with certain magics like death and the like where you can get more dice, and that can certainly make create an imbalance too. And certainly special characters, they're not all created equal across all books. And not all books are created equal. But I can live with a lot of those inequalities. The thing is that you want to have a mechanic that works. And what's been very much illustrated with other YouTubers, people who are considerably, have considerably more followers than I do, and certainly have much more experience with, at the very least, 8th edition, and certainly with more recent editions, more recent experience than I do, have really analyzed this and broken it down. People like Skaven NAZ, the Sustainable Center, William Page did a phenomenal write-up on the rules in general and breaking it down. I think that, despite the controversy, which I don't really think is a controversy, of whether or not if you dispel a spell, it means that you can't recast it, or it just means that you have to fail the casting cost. Either of those two things, I think, don't change this fact. My feeling is, I think the wording of it does mean that you can recast it even if somebody dispels it. It's just if you fail it. But in seeing the results, and seeing the actual results of what that element is, if you allow that interpretation, I think that's worse. Even though I believe that's probably what GW intended, and I could be wrong. It's just my opinion. I like that the least. So I think that it's better if you allow if you have the more restrictive rule. But it does change the level of crazy in another direction. It's still crazy. I think still Khaine rules for Magic are awful. If you are new to Khaine rules and you really haven't seen it, there's other videos that can give you a rundown. A lot of it is very restrictive, very random, very chaotic. It doesn't really apply a lot of strategy. The strategy that you can apply, you can't count on, and then the ability to rapid fire spells and continue to cast them again and again in either of those segments, and the emphasis on smaller spells where you can even if you can recast them with other individual casters after you failed, or the idea that you can that everybody's a lore master and now you have this whole Scrollodex of spells. It's not the game a lot of people want to play. It's over the top, and it just shows, as has been said, that GW just doesn't test this stuff very well. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they tout very much that you play the way you want, make changes, make rules. I think that maybe they're just throwing stuff out there that's just wacky and crazy with the intention of saying, you go ahead and adjust this. We're fine with that, and in fact, we're not going to go and waste the time and money to test it because this is not what we're about. We don't care. You play or you don't, or you just and you don't, and we're not going to adhere to some balance system. They clearly have shown a track record of just not caring about that. That's the least of their concerns. So, with that in mind, I'm fully against Khaine. Will I leave the hobby? No, I'm not going to leave the hobby. Anybody who says they want to quit because of these types of things, well, there's some prominent people that have already quit, like Malorian. The Sustainable Center has already threatened to do so if these changes get instituted into 9th. I think everybody needs to cool their jets and not panic. I took to heart Skaven AZs and the Sustainable Center and other people that have posted information about it and have demoed it and have shown their results. And it's concerning. It's certainly something of concern, and should be of concern, because I don't think it's not even about the balance. It is about the fun, and it's about the time and effort in the Magic phase to accomplish things, and the way that the Magic phase has radically changed as a result. Even if we're interpreting the rules correctly, here's my opinion though. And this is why I'm not panicking about it. Could this be instituted in 9th? Could this be the way Magic is in 9th? Sure. It's possible. And it's even likely. I think that it isn't going to be instituted this way in 9th. And I have not read anything about this. I haven't even really scoured, all the different sources that I usually scour for information recently, just in the last week or two. I just feel like this is a product of the storyline in End Times. That Magic is run amok, it's uber powerful, and as a result things are out of control and they're just being shaken up. And I really think that they're going to be changed in one of two ways. Either at the end of End Times, this and many other things will get dialed back. They'll be reduced in their craziness, maybe adjusted to a new level of calm, and the storms of Magic that were unleashed will be corralled again, and we'll see a little bit more of a stable structure, whatever that might be, whatever 9th might look like. I think we'll see something that's a little less nutty. Now, if the other way that this could go, and that could be still, these are not mutually exclusive, these two ideas. The other way this can go is, look, we haven't seen all the books, and the rumor is that 4 books is probably not going to be the total of End Times books. They'll be continuing to run more End Times books and continue the campaign on. So my thinking is, and they've radically changed things from book to book to book, with differences in rules, differences in rules for armies based on scenarios. differences in the army compositions, and crazy stuff that characters bring that adjust the game. And they've the first of which was the 1.9 FAQ, the 50% Lords and Heroes, and everybody gets access to Undead Legions. Not Undead Legions, excuse me, the Lore of Undeath. So it doesn't mean that they won't do it again, and that could have a tremendous impact on the game. I think that they're releasing these books expecting, and they're right, that people are going to be playing with them, play testing them, playing in an end times environment. I know I have. I've been playing as many of the scenarios as I can get games for, and I've published a bunch of them on the YouTube channel. So my thinking is the next book could involve dwarves, and if it doesn't, it'll be a book further down the line. And if it does involve dwarves, I think dwarves are going to break magic. Dwarves have not gotten anything. Certainly a lot of armies haven't. But dwarves, they recently had an update on their book, probably 8 or 9 months ago. Not sure exactly. They're a tough army. They're still a top 10 army. They're not top 5 as far as I'm concerned. They still have major holes, but they still are a very powerful army. And one of their biggest things is anti-magic. Is that they're not magic. They have some magical abilities with the unfortunately underpowered and overcosted and changed anvil, but maybe the anvil might get infused and when they get their time in the end times spotlight. But I think something even more severe might happen. I think with the Velaya's Gate, somebody had mentioned that in response to a comment I made about this exactly. I think we might see an explosion of anti-magic that will suppress a lot of this. I think it could even break magic in the game for a time, because I don't think any of this is permanent. I think this is all cyclical and all story-based. I think dwarves could get some very serious anti-magic effects. Some of the things I'd love to see, which I think would help them actually exist in end times, because right now, the way the rules are, they can, and that's okay. Okay, the level of power and the power creep has followed and changed with the addition of new end times books, as with any new army book would be. But with that in mind, I think that dwarves might get more innate magic resistance. I would like to see that impact the insta-kill spells. They could also get, there's been rumors of golem structures, of golems, monster structures that they've created, clockwork type structures. Maybe they have an innate resistance to magic. Maybe they have some resistance to some of those crazy end time spells that do crazy things to war machines, for example. But I think maybe there might be something that might actually shut down or really radically affect the magic phase in general, with new structured rules following that storyline, following the storyline that the dwarves, whatever it is that they're involved in, bring. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see something that breaks the world of magic, or breaks, shatters how it works. And it would give really something for the dwarves to kind of plant a flag in the ground and say, we had an impact on this game. Because right now it's been, it started out with the undead. I know a lot of the stories, parallel. They're happening similar time frames. But they came out gangbusters in the first book, and then undead, then chaos, and then now it's everybody started talking about the elves. Certainly it changes the meta when it comes to how that might be included in competitive play. But just like Anthony from the Sustainable Center said, it's very hard to see how this, if it was included into Ninth, would be able to be used in competitive or casual play. With any kind of comp. How do you comp? Where do you comp? It's really good points that he brought up that I didn't even think about. But really, more importantly, I'm thinking about where does it go forward with GW's design on where the game is going to go. And it just seems like they don't want anything to be static. They want things to be fluid. They want things to constantly change. They want you to buy new models. They want you to buy new books to get the new and latest rules. That might be where Warhammer is going. It might be more of a story-driven rule set, as opposed to here's your army book, here's your big red rule book, and here's the next army book, and then so on. They may be breaking that cycle and making it more campaign after campaign after campaign, scenario after scenario, and rule sets that change with the flow of the story. And I'm not so sure I'm unhappy about that. It does have two different impacts. One is it's great for the game. I think it would be really wonderful to change up how everybody plays. It kind of gets boring just sitting around and playing a battle line, or even rolling up one of maybe a handful of scenarios. That gets old, and it just doesn't have enough variety, and it's very hard to balance. And it shouldn't be balanced. It should be very random. You shouldn't be able to know and guess exactly what whether your army is able to handle all comers and all scenarios. It should be a situation where sometimes you just fall into a crack and you're at a disadvantage and you got to crawl out of it within the game framework, within that game. And I like that idea, that randomness that keeps you on your toes and makes it fresh, and can make it fun, as long as people have the right attitude about sometimes losing a game, because you can always just start up a new one. It's a story. If the scenarios and the campaign goals and the games itself have goals in mind that, whether they're balanced or not, are still fun, then you can still play to the end and enjoy the game. What does that mean for the competitive side? I don't know, and I haven't really thought about that too much. I'm not as concerned about it. I think the competitive arena will figure it out on their own. They'll find a way to make it work, and whether I'm a part of it or not doesn't matter. That'll happen in some capacity. There's too much of an infrastructure there for it to just crumble and disappear, at least not quickly. But as far as where, what these rule sets might be for the casual play, I think this could be a very good thing, and it could be something that helps inspire people to stay with the game, inspire to certainly expand and buy new things, which feeds GW, fueling this hobby and supporting fantasy, and I think that ultimately that's the best thing possible, because fantasy doesn't get relegated into a corner and then forgotten for 6 or 8 months or a year. It's something that will, if it's making money for them, they're going to pay attention to it. And I've said that on quite a few videos. The negative side of it is in the pocketbook, in the wallet, and that's a situation that is going to affect you and me unless you're independently wealthy. You're going to be concerned about the fact that, can you keep up? It's one of the things why I stopped playing HeroClix for a while and collecting that, because you got to keep up. Every 3 months there's a whole new set of cases that are like $100 a pop, and you got to get 4 or 6 of them to have a chance to get everything, and there's just no way to keep up and stay competitive. So, excuse me. So I look at it as a financial hurdle also. GW is not concerned about that. They want to sell more models. They're in the business to make money. But for the individuals who want to have multiple armies, we're going to have to keep up. Now, maybe we don't have the latest, and greatest. I know people who have crazy amounts of, chaos armies, both demons and warriors, and they're not getting the Blight Kings. They have enough stuff. They think that they can put a really good list out. They're not getting the latest, greatest. They're not getting the Glocken, and that's good. They still can put out a really good army and a really good list. But there are people that like that. Maybe they're starting anew. Maybe they're jumping into a new army, and they'll buy those things. But for overall, it's not about the models necessarily. It's about the books, especially if they're limited edition, especially if it's hard to find, like spell cards, which everybody wants. These are things that are artificially created by virtue of the fact that GW has been creating very limited numbers of them, and that sucks. But let's be honest. They want to make money, and they want to, they could do a better job of it if they just increase the printing cost. I mean, we all want it, so print more of it, and we'll buy it. I don't know. I just don't understand that, and that's been debated and talked about certainly as well. But so again, the negative side is that you and me and anybody else in the hobby are going to have to spend more to buy these books on a more regular basis. It's not just buying what army book you want, maybe trying to read up or borrow the army books from friends, but if there are new rules that are changing the way you play over time, and periodically there's new ones that are introduced, then in order to keep up and stay in the know, you got to spend more money. That's good for GW. It might not be great for the individual investor in the hobby, the individual hobbyist. And that's just the way it's going to probably be. I have a feeling that may be the way it's going to go, and I'm not thrilled about that. I like to keep my spend to a minimum so I can buy more models and so I can do more things, so I can hopefully go and spend money on going right for the weekend to a GT, and so I can minimize the amount of closet space and the amount of storage that I need for transporting an army or just putting it away, and that's probably not going to be the case if you want to stick with this hobby. I think this hobby might be getting more expensive than it even is now as a result, because of the repetition of source material that's going to be released. But I could be wrong. I don't know if this is true. This is just one person's opinion. I'm prognosticating. I'm trying to read the tea leaves. I don't have any special powers of my own. But just the patterns I see, I think, might be leading in that direction. So we'll see. We'll have to see. A lot of the things I've said about end times, even when I was initially making comments, which was touting it as the, this is new Warhammer, get used to it. And I think I was right in a small sense, but I was wrong in other senses. There are certainly there's new information, new realities that we've seen as more books have come out, and I think there were some things that I was accurate about, but I'm not so sure about everything. I'm not so sure. I've changed my mind about a few things. Most importantly, when you see some of the radical changes like you see in the Warhammer Khaine book with magic. So we'll have to see. Certainly feel free to weigh in your opinion. If you have any comments, please feel free to throw them in there. Please just try not to get too nasty with each other, and don't take any comments to heart. I'll try to respond to as many as I can. First, if you like this video, please feel free to like it as well. And if you are new to the channel and you're not a subscriber, please feel free to subscribe. Got lots of content coming your way, and I appreciate all the support, not just from the people who have subscribed. I've just recently passed 500 subscribers. Thank you very much, each and every one of you. And I'm looking to push now on to 1,000. And also to my fellow YouTubers, some of which I get into very visceral debates with, but it's all out of respect, all within respect, and all with trying to be constructive. If I seem passionate about it, I hope you take that, you don't take it to heart, and you understand that it comes from passion, and none of my comments are meant to be insulting. And certainly I hope you follow and continue to follow, and I look forward to more discourse and to more videos in the future, and to watching certainly the content of my fellow YouTubers. Have a great day, everybody.